Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Digital Marketing for Accountants, How to Win New Clients Online, brought to you by Method CRM. Method is the #1 rated CRM for QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online users with over 1,300 five-star reviews on intuitsapps.com. Method offers the best two-way real-time integration with QuickBooks, which instantly syncs customers, invoices, payments, and more between Method CRM and QuickBooks. My name is Gary Dehart. I'm the publisher of Untitled Accountant and your man behind the scenes for today's event. Before I introduce our host and our speaker, I have a couple of housekeeping items. One, you may be aware we do our Top 100 Pro Advisor program. The nominations period for that closes tomorrow night at midnight, so don't miss out. The link to the nomination form will be in the chat. Number two, this is a CPE eligible webinar, and in order to earn your credit, you must be present for 50% or 50 minutes, 50 minutes of the presentation, and you must engage in the polling questions. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat or the Q&A panel. We'll try to get to them at the end or during the presentation. Everyone will receive an email with the recording link attached. CPE certificates will be available within 48 hours. Usually we send them out within 24, but we give ourselves 48. And the presentation will be in your chat as soon as I'm finished with my intros here. So today's host is Jennifer Barrett. Jen recently joined Method as the Partner Marketing Manager. She loves the intersection of creativity and analytics and marketing, forming strong relationships with the Method partner community to better support both them and their respective clients, and working with the Method team to drive growth both professionally and personally. Our speaker is Dan Van Meer. Dan has over 15 years of experience in marketing and software. He loves the challenge of connecting people with solutions that can make a difference in their lives. Dan has also taught digital marketing at the University of Toronto and is excited to share some thoughts today with you about using digital marketing to grow your practice. And just in case you weren't sure, Method CRM is the CRM designed for QuickBooks, built for QuickBooks, rated #1 CRM by QuickBooks users, and recommended by QuickBooks Pro Advisors. Method streamlines business processes by automating lead collection, simplifying contact management, estimation and invoice creation, and collecting payments. You can future-proof your company with a CRM you won't outgrow. Achieve optimal workflows with the powerful combination of Method's customization engine and QuickBooks Sync. Jen, it is all yours.
Thank you so much, Gary, for that intro. As he mentioned, today Dan and I are going to be talking all about digital marketing for accountants and how to win new clients online. When the oldest millennial turned 40 in 2020, going digital became not just a nice to have, but really the trend to keep up with clients' expectations. From acquiring them online to servicing them with technology, we're here to cover all the very best digital marketing strategies and technologies to use in 2022. But before we dive in, we have a few poll questions to help us better understand a bit more about the digital marketing efforts and experience of our audience today. So our first poll is, how knowledgeable are you in digital marketing? And I like this poll question because I work in digital marketing and I can't say that I'm an expert. It's changing all the time. So I can't claim that for myself. But what about you, Dan? I think you could probably say you're the expert.
I think I've made enough mistakes in my life in marketing and digital marketing to say I'm an expert, but we'll see. There's always something to learn, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm learning all the time from Dan on the job. So probably not the best thing to confess to my boss while presenting, but honesty is key, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, looks like the poll has closed and we've got quite a few beginners just starting out. So I'd say this content is going to be perfect for you because Dan really lays out the foundation to execution. The next question is, how much time do you spend on digital marketing per week? This is a great question because you can spend, I mean, full-time job, 40 plus hours a week, full teams on digital marketing, and still there's more to do. So, and then some people spend no time and they get all of their clients from referrals, just word of mouth, and they've been growing their business that way. So definitely could be a wide range. Yep, hiring people to manage your marketing is definitely a good option. Yeah, so definitely we're seeing less than an hour as the majority, nobody 10 hours plus, but that makes sense for an accounting audience, as you want to be spending most of your time, helping your clients with accounting and maybe outsourcing that marketing. And the final poll is, what area of digital marketing strategy do you want to get better at? This will help Dan know where to focus most of his efforts today in the presentation. For me, I'm always curious about search engine optimization. It's such a finicky area, lots of nuance to it, and changing all the time. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. My first start in digital marketing was around search engine optimization and then PPC marketing, which we're going to talk a lot about today. So I think those are two areas that are pretty near to my heart, and two of the kind of more effective channels to think about too. Anyway, so I think we'll touch a bit on that today for sure.
Yeah, and Kayla in the chat said video marketing, which is definitely a bigger area that's growing. It captures people's attention a lot quicker. Yeah, so similar to me, SEO seems to be up there. All of them for sure is definitely a valid answer. And email marketing. I live in email marketing quite a bit, and I do enjoy it.
I think maybe Jen.
Okay, that sets. Go
Perfect.
ahead.
No, I think you just froze for a second there, Jen. So I was going to jump in, but you're back, so it's all good.
Apologies.
All good.
Yeah, that sets us up really well for the presentation ahead. So I'm going to pass it over to the true expert, Dan, to take you through the fundamentals of digital marketing.
Perfect. That's great, Jen, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for setting some time aside in your day to hang out with us and chat about digital marketing. Like Jen mentioned, this is a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart. My background has been in marketing my entire career, and actually I kind of really got my start in digital marketing in the agency world, working with a lot of small businesses to help them grow. So the things we're going to talk about today are things that they're not just kind of fluffy concepts. They're things that I've seen work and work well. The other comment I'll make too, though, is that I know that that you all lead busy lives, I'm sure personally and professionally, and marketing is one of those things that often it's tough to find time to do and to do really, really well. So one of the things we'll talk about today, I think, is also just kind of easy places to start in terms of marketing. So I'm just getting a bit of feedback, Jen. I don't know if it's coming through your mic, maybe. Awesome, thanks. Great. So without further ado, let's jump in. Let's talk about some fundamentals of marketing. And just a bit of a spoiler alert on this. These next couple of slides aren't going to be digital specific, but they're a couple of good reminders really for what makes for great marketing. Because at the end of the day, digital marketing is about channels that you use to tell your story and to find customers. But there's some fundamentals that are super important to get right before you spend $1 on advertising, before you write a piece of content. So today we're going to talk about really what great marketing looks like, and then we'll jump into some of the channels as well. So kind of key number one with great marketing is understanding who your audience is. And you look at kind of our attendees today and how big the space you compete in is. It's huge, right? And one of the interesting realities of today's world is that while historically you may have competed against local competition, the fact that so many people transact business online today means that your competitive set is actually a lot bigger than it was 20 years ago. That's it's a reality that affects you and it affects all of your peers. So you're operating in a competitive space, just like every other business owner is today. There's really very few markets that don't have competition. So really, as you think about that, one of the keys to doing marketing well is figuring out, who you can serve best and who you want to serve, and trying to find a niche, a space in the market where you can do things better than your competition can. And there's ways that you can use your existing client base to figure that out. Take a look at who you do business with today, and figure out who your best fit is. And best fit could be, based on your background. Best fit could be based on revenue potential. Best fit could be based on just who you enjoy working with. If you're running a business, you have the luxury of being able to decide what best fit means. So a bit of homework today. If you haven't spent time thinking about who your best customers are, and who you want to go out and find that look like your best customers, take a bit of time this afternoon or tomorrow before the weekend hits and figure that out. Because I can tell you that going into any year and building any marketing strategy with a good sense of who your audience is sets you up for success in a huge way. You can serve a lot of people. There's probably a subset of that audience that you can serve really, really well. And that's the easiest way to grow your business through any marketing channel. The second piece to understand is that the people go through a buying journey. And anytime you make a purchase, you go through a buying journey as well. Whether it's buying a new laptop or buying a house, there's a process you go through. And there's tons of different models that you could use for kind of mapping that journey out. This is one that I've used throughout my career, and I like it a lot. And it reflects on the point that buyers go through kind of 4 stages as they decide to purchase a solution or engage with a small business or a business like yours. First, they go through kind of an awareness phase where they realize they have a problem. Maybe they were using software to do their tax filings and realize that they were missing out or they're making mistakes. From there, they realize that they need professional help. They show an interest in finding a solution to their problem. Then they move from an interest to an intention to make a purchase. While we all, when we're making purchase decisions, typically have a couple different options we think about, we often have a bias, right? And so if I'm going out and I'm shopping for a new car, I might test drive 4 cars, but I probably go into those test drives knowing that I really like one specific car, and it would take a big surprise to make my decision change. That's kind of that desire stage. And then the action stage is where people actually make a purchase decision. And so when it comes to marketing, really, we want to be present at all stages of the customer journey in an ideal world. I say ideal world because the reality is that it's actually really difficult and often pretty expensive to be present at every step of the buyer's journey. So one of the important things about understanding the fact that the buyers go through a journey is also understanding that different channels support different stages of the journey. And when we pick where we want to invest, we want to make sure that we overinvest at the bottom of this funnel. So we want to make sure that if we have marketing strategies and tactics that can let us reach people who are about to make a purchase decision, that's the best place to spend our money. So I know one person made a comment earlier about video marketing. And I think one of the poll options was around social media marketing, both of which are like hugely important to a full marketing mix. But if you look at kind of the stage of this journey and the different processes people go through, video marketing and often social media marketing are great tools for building awareness at the top of a journey, or influencing maybe the decision process through the interest and desire phase. But people aren't on YouTube when they're ready to make a purchase decision, right? They go to Google and they're typing in, accountants near me, and we'll look at kind of that example later on today. And so for you as a business owner, somebody wanting to grow a business, you need to make sure that if you have $10 to spend in marketing, you're spending $10 on people that are ready to buy. Because if you build your marketing strategy from the bottom of this funnel to the top, so basically capturing as much interest as possible and then moving towards kind of that influence and that awareness stage, you're going to do great. And you'll be able to use the returns you generate by focusing on people that are ready to buy to fund other parts of your strategy when it comes to building awareness. A lot of people go into digital marketing and engage with an agency and spend all their money on social media marketing, again, which is an important tactic, but it's a tactic that really builds awareness. And then they're disappointed that they didn't drive a lot of new business out of that. So social media is part of a strategy, it's part of your mix, but it's not where you should be starting. I firmly believe that. And so today we're actually not going to talk a lot about social media marketing, because today we're really focusing on the digital channels that are going to drive you new business, because I know that's the most important thing, right? If we can grow our businesses, we can fund other things, and we can move up this kind of journey process, but we got to start at the bottom and build up. Jen and I will both keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A. I'm a pretty informal guy, if you haven't been able to tell already, so I'm happy to stop and answer questions if you have any. So we'll keep an eye out for any questions as they come up. Step number 3 is understanding what makes you different. Why should people do business with you? And just being brutally honest, if you can't sit here and in your mind identify why you are the best option for somebody who needs your services, your potential customers aren't going to find out either. Those things that differentiate you could be the range of services that you offer. It could be, specific education or certifications that you hold. It could be industry specific experiences. It could be the fact that you are just the best at servicing customers, and every customer that you work with leaves you a 5-star review. I don't know about your specific context, but you need to figure out what makes you different. And this point is so critical to success, because if you can't articulate why you're different or why people should do business with you, marketing basically becomes a game of just who can spend the most money. And I don't know about you, but when I'm advising clients or when I'm working with Method on their marketing strategies, we don't want to win just by spending money, because realistically, there's always going to be somebody who can spend more money than you can. So we want to be smart, we want to be intentional, we want to be strategic. And so understanding why we're different is a key piece of making sure that we stand out. Kind of second homework assignment for you today is to put yourself to the test. So, again, I know you don't have a lot of free time probably, but when you have a few minutes, challenge yourself to write out a couple different ways that you differentiate. So figure out, can you do it in one line? That's basically kind of your 30,000 foot view of why people should do business with you. Can you do it in one paragraph? That's your elevator pitch. Can you do it in 100 words? That's when you kind of have the chance to buy somebody coffee and actually articulate to them why you are amazing, why you're different, what your value points are, and then prove that you can deliver it. And again, if you can do these 3 things, kind of articulate your competitive advantage in those 3 different formats, that's you're well on the way to making sure that you can outmarket people without having to just straight up outspend them, which is what I'll always advocate for.
Yeah, actually, this is a great time to launch our next poll, because a unique selling point can be a certification that you hold and is a good market signal that you know what you're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and launch a poll to see if anyone in the audience has any certifications that they can leverage for Dan's homework. And we've got some QuickBooks Pro Advisor, Zero Advisor, Intuit Premier Reseller, CPA, CMA, or other. So I know that a lot of accountants hold these accreditations, and they do hold value in the marketplace. So curious to see what mix we have in the audience today. Okay. Mostly QuickBooks Pro Advisors, some CPAs. So yeah, nice mix, and curious about what the others might be. If you are another, let us know in the chat which ones we missed out on putting in the poll.
Yeah, definitely curious to see what those are for sure. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. And so the kind of the final piece for you is really making sure that you set appropriate expectations for what a healthy marketing program looks like. And the keys to doing this really are understanding what your expectation is based on the investment that you're going to put into marketing. If you spend $1,000 in marketing in 2022, what do you expect in terms of new business? And some ways that you can start to do that math in your head. You can look at the lifetime value of your typical client. You can use that to set your expectation for a return on investment. You can even distill that down to saying, here's how many new clients I want to onboard this year to support my growth goals. So articulate those things, figure out your budget and your expectations. One of the things we'll talk about near the end of the presentation today is kind of opportunities to work with different partners in the space, and having these expectations set really lays a great foundation for you to be able to work with partners that can actually deliver on your expectations as opposed to just spend your money. There's lots of agencies and freelancers that'll be happy to spend your money, but you want to find one that's actually going to drive business for you. Sorry, and you know what? One more bonus tip here, and that's to practice good marketing hygiene. I think this is the last minute addition for me as I was just thinking about the keys to success before we talk about channels. So the final piece here really is for you to figure out how well you are doing the little things well. When I talk about little things, I'm talking about things like making sure that you follow up promptly when prospects get in touch. Are you able to answer the phone when somebody calls, or is everybody hitting voicemail? Are you able to provide timely service to your existing client base, or are you so stretched that you really can't afford to take on new clients right now because you're struggling to keep up with the volume you have today? Do you have a habit for asking for reviews when you deliver great experiences for your customers? These are all the little things that will set you apart as well. So we've talked about knowing your audience. We've talked about understanding what makes you unique. We've talked about the financial component. But really, the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to being prepared to do marketing really well and being prepared for growth is making sure that you're in a position to deliver really, really great experiences. Because that's the final piece that allows you to differentiate. There's lots of people that deliver average service in this world. I can give you an example. In our town, we have a couple of different coffee shops. We have kind of the independent coffee shop that brews great beans and makes really nice lattes, and they are super unfriendly. And we have Starbucks, which is kind of the mainstream coffee place. And every time I go to Starbucks, somebody asks me how my day's going, and they're super friendly at the window. And truthfully, I go to Starbucks more than the local coffee shop now. Even though I like the local coffee better, I get a better experience at Starbucks. I get friendlier service, and so I go there. And the same is true for every industry. If you make customers feel valued and clients feel valued, they're going to keep coming back and be loyal to you for sure. So do a bit of an honest review. Make sure that your house is in order before you invite new guests, aka new clients, over to engage with you.
Yeah,
and
I think
that,
I've been.
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead, Jen.
I think I've done that where I've over marketed, I think, what capacity is, and it shows up quickly. So we now have the fundamentals, and we know some exercises to create that foundation of our digital marketing strategy. But what's next? Dan, tell us. We're eager.
Perfect. All right. So let's talk about building a great marketing mix. And again, there's a ton of different options when it comes to marketing, tons of different channels. We are not going to touch on all these channels today. I could talk about this stuff all day though, so we could totally do follow-up sessions and dive deeper into other channels that we don't cover if people are interested in that. But kind of the main point I want you to take from this slide here is not so much the different kind of tactics that are listed under each heading, but I want you to keep in mind that when it comes to marketing, there's kind of three main types of channels. There's marketing channels that you own, so you have complete control over them. And your website is a great example of that. You own your website, you own the content there, you have complete control over it. And unless you get hacked, which hopefully you set strong passwords and you don't get hacked, nobody can pull the rug out from under you and do anything with your website. You own that property. The same can be said for most of your social media profiles, although they kind of blur the line a bit. Contrast that versus something like advertising on Google, where you're basically paying to show ads and to have those ads listed. You can be unseated by a competitor paying more. You could be penalized by how Google decides to weight different advertising quality scores. There's an element of external influence over that paid space that you don't control. So it's important. It's an important space to be in, but it's volatile. You're basically renting a place to share your message, right? So contrast that versus your website where you have complete control and you own it. When we're paying for advertising space, we're basically renters. And then kind of the third bucket is earned media. And that's kind of a longer term play. When you think about earning something, it takes time, right? You got to put the work in. And so often when you do marketing well, when you run business well, when you do great things for customers, the earned media comes and follows with that. So again, Really just wanted to highlight with this that there's a big difference between properties and campaigns and tactics that you own versus ones where you have to pay and you're basically renting space. You never want to build a marketing strategy that is 100% reliant on something you don't control. There's so many advertisers today that rely 100% on Google pay-per-click ads as their only source of new business. Totally volatile because costs can go up. And so you don't want to ever build 100% reliance on one specific channel. And so really building kind of a great marketing program is combining that whole conversation we had about understanding the customer journey and building from the bottom up with building a healthy mix of channels that give you exposure, but also help you manage risk in an intelligent way. And so without further ado, sorry, I just skipped a few slides here. Let's try to get back to where I was. Let's jump in to specific channels. And really, when we talk about marketing today, one of the places that we really need to spend a couple minutes talking about, obviously, is Google. And what's interesting about Google is that when we look at Google's result, there's actually a couple different marketing tactics within a single Google search result. So if I type in accountants near me, I live in Stouffville, just north of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So if you type in accountants near me, your result is going to look a bit different from mine in terms of who's listed, but the structure will probably be the same. And so when we look at the search result for accountants near me, there's three distinct parts, actually four distinct parts typically that I want to call out with this. And so the first part to call out is this top section. These are all paid advertisements. So typically on most Google searches, Google is going to show paid advertisements on top of the search results and at the bottom of the search results. That's kind of part number one, and we are going to talk a bit about Google PPC today. Part number two is the local search result. This is separate. Part number three is what they call a knowledge graph. This is interesting. Basically, what Google does here is scrapes other people's content and then shows it right inside of the search result. They actually took a lot of flack for this because instead, before this type of result showed Olympia benefits often would have got traffic for certain types of searches. Now Olympia benefits doesn't get that traffic because Google has pulled their content right into the search result. We're not going to talk about this today, really, but this is part of an SEO strategy. And then the fourth part is the SEO results. So one of the things I want to point out here is that SEO, search engine optimization, also called your organic strategy, is a big part of a healthy marketing mix. But I do want to show you, look how far down you have to scroll in this search result to get there. You have to scroll past the ads, past the local result, past kind of the knowledge graph result. I'm halfway down before I hit the first organic search result. And, really, this is a competitive term. Accountants, anything around the, professional services space is often challenging to rank for. So this, bark.com has probably worked hard to get this result and they're still halfway down. So we are going to talk about SEO, but when we talk about attracting traffic to our business, Google really is the main way that we need to be thinking about doing that from a digital marketing perspective. It's just the reality of the space we compete in today. Google's market share globally is 90%. So 90% of people that are going to search engines to find a product or a service or an answer to a question are turning to Google. So when you think back to the customer journey, and we talked about trying to capture people that are looking for your solution, the majority of your prospective new clients are going to Google to find somebody like you today. And so we're going to talk a bit about PPC advertising and SEO specifically, and what that looks like. But, again, maybe it's a future session, but there is this whole local Google search element that's important to consider as well. So again, when we're talking about growing new business with Google from an organic or SEO strategy perspective, We need to keep in mind that Google's objective really is to return the most relevant answer to the question that the searcher is asking. And there's a couple different factors that Google ranks those responses, those results on. And so there's kind of 7 core factors here. There's the quality of your content, how mobile friendly your website is, how user friendly your site is overall. Page speed is how fast your site loads. On-page optimization is really what you write about on your website and the clues that it gives to Google and to the users of your website. Internal links talks about how you link all your different pages together. And then external links, references to other websites that are linking to your website. So Google's algorithm, overall is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of different data points that they use to decide who ranks in what position on the search engine results. But these are kind of the core things that you need to keep in mind that Google primarily is looking for when it comes to surfacing results. Now, with Google's algorithm, there's kind of 2 main buckets that we can take these factors and put them into. And so everything I've highlighted in green are factors that you can control. So remember, with our website, we own it, right? We make decisions about what content is on there. We make decisions about who our host is. So when it comes to having a fast site that looks great, that's easy to use, that's available on mobile devices, that uses the right keywords and optimizations, we control that. You control that. Hopefully you control that. If you don't control your website, we should probably talk and figure out how we can get you to control your website, because you should control your website. But the external link piece is something that we don't control. And both of these different buckets are really important. Quite frankly, it's fairly easy if you have time to set up your own website to run well. Whether you're using WordPress or a hosted solution, often you have enough control that you can make sure that your website satisfies most of Google's requirements. The external link piece is more tricky. This is basically people that are linking from their site to your site. And in Google's eyes, those links are votes of confidence. Now, what happened 15 years ago is people would do mass outreach and get lots of links from lots of different sites to point to their website and kind of game the system. Google's way smarter than that today. So it's a lot harder to manipulate Google's algorithm. And that's really what Google is going to continue to try to do. I'm calling this out today because I'm sure some of you have probably worked with SEO agencies in the past. And there's a very big delta between agencies that are good at what they do and can do it in a way that complies with what Google's expectations are, and ones that are not great, don't do it the right way, and ultimately leave you at risk of getting penalized. Because Google controls the search results, they can do whatever they want, right? And back when I was working at the agency, we had lots of clients who did SEO and worked with agencies that were not that reputable and actually got themselves penalized where Google took them out of the index. And when you think about the potential Google holds when it comes to driving new business, you want to make sure you do things right, because the last thing you want to happen is to have Google decide that you're breaking their rules, you're trying to game their system, and have them push you out of the results. I just want to quickly go back to one point I made around just Google's objective to return the most relevant answer to what searchers are looking for. 15 years ago, it was very literal. If you wanted to rank for a keyword, you would optimize your site for that specific keyword. So if I wanted to rank for, accountant in Stouffville or bookkeeper in Stouffville, I would make sure to optimize my website with those specific terms. Google's getting better and better at understanding the intention behind a search. So if you look at accountants near me, I didn't tell Google where I was. I didn't tell them where I was physically located. Obviously, they did a bit of magic behind the scenes with my IP address and where the search was coming from to deliver a result that that is very specific to my area. I can confirm that I live within these couple blocks that are shown on this map here. They're that good. Another cool example I wanted to show you, though, was around a search for a weather-related pattern. So 15 years ago, if I typed in, should I wear a jacket today? Whichever site was optimized best for that literal, should I wear a jacket today, would rank high in the search results. Today, Google now knows that if I'm typing, should I wear a jacket in today? I'm actually asking what the weather is like. And I don't know where you're located today. I hope you're somewhere warmer than I am. But it's -8. I should definitely be wearing a jacket today. Google's getting better and better all the time with understanding the intent behind what people are looking for. They want to deliver great results. And so again, back to like this whole idea of making sure we know how we're going to compete, understanding what our unique positioning is. We have to be able to communicate that both to our target audience, but then also to Google through the strength of our content, because that's what's going to make you have a great shot at ranking for those search keywords that you want to rank for that can drive you new business. So that's kind of a primer on SEO. SEO is an easy thing to do poorly, and it's something that's a bit harder to do well. We'll talk about some places to start at the end of this deck. It's a place that you may want to consider budgeting for some help when it comes to growing with that channel in 2022. Kind of the next bucket I want to talk about for a minute is AdWords. So we talked about those paid advertisements at the top of the Google search results. And that's, obviously a pretty prime location. So if I go back to this accountants near me search for a second, without scrolling, basically people are seeing advertisements on Google search engine. This is here to stay. Google is in the business to make money. And the reality is that their local search results and their organic search results don't make them money, but they make a killing on paid ads. So if you're not advertising and doing PPC advertising today, it's something that you do need to consider for 2022. Basically what it allows you to do is target specific terms and then bid to show your ad on those terms. You have a great deal of control over the searches that you show for. It could be very specific searches about people with specific tax questions, for example, or it could be more broad, like this search result I'm showing you here. You can pick what terms you want to show for. Then you also pick your bid, and you pay per click for your ad to be shown. The nice thing about this channel is that while it can be expensive, it's also efficient in that you only pay if somebody clicks. So again, the billing's only triggered if somebody actually gets to your site. So you have a chance to convince that person to do business with you. It's not just about showing your ad. And you can also set pretty granular budgets. So you could say, I only want to spend $30 a day to a maximum of, $500 a month. And the ads will turn off as soon as you hit your threshold, and they'll reset the next month. So it's not a channel where you have to commit a ton of money to get into. And it's a channel that guarantees that if you're getting charged, that person is ending up on your site. So if you're not doing that today, it's something you should think about. I'd be interested in the chat if anybody is using this channel effectively today. So let us know. Kind of the keys with Google's paid advertising is really making sure that you understand your financial expectations. We talked about setting budgets and then setting expectations for those budgets. Because you're going to be paying per click, it's very easy to kind of work backwards and figure out, what you can afford to pay per click in terms of the new business it'll drive. So go in with a good understanding of your expectations. Go in with good controls on your budget, and you'll have a good shot at driving leads through Google's paid search platform. If your strategy is a bit weak or you're over aggressive on your bids, you can burn through your budget really quickly. One thing I will call out is that you could today very easily go and open your own AdWords account. A word of caution: Google's default settings when it comes to setting up paid advertised PPC accounts with them typically aren't necessarily in your best interest. So Google's recommended settings are all around giving you lots of exposure, which also means you'll spend lots of money. So quick tip: typically look critically at Google's recommended settings if you're setting up an AdWords account, and really decide for yourself what the appropriate way to set things up are. Don't follow their advice blindly, because their advice really is optimized more towards their interests than your own interests. So we had a question from one of the attendees: will you be going over the range of PPC that is most effective? So when we talk about PPC, it's a great question. There's kind of two main buckets, and Terry, jump back into the Q&A if I don't answer this the way you're expecting. But when we talk about PPC, there's PPC search advertising, so pay-per-click advertising on search engines, and then there's PPC advertising on social media. That's kind of the two really big buckets. YouTube also has a pay-per-click auction as well. And there's also display advertising. And so if you think back to that customer journey funnel, let me even just go back in the slides for the sake of the conversation. If we look at this slide for a second, there's different PPC options that allow us to reach people at different stages of this funnel. And so when we are deciding which channels we want to spend on, Google search paid advertising typically allows us to reach people that are ready to buy. So if somebody is searching for a keyword like accountant near me, they're likely looking for services fairly quickly, right? If you contrast that versus PPC advertising on Facebook, when I'm on Facebook, I'm typically not in the mindset of looking for solutions to my problems, personally or professionally. Usually I'm on social media because I'm, entertaining myself. That's probably the best way to put it. You go to social media for entertainment, the same way you go to your favorite news site for entertainment. And so when we talk about, the power of Google's PPC option with search versus PPC ads on Facebook or PPC ads on YouTube or display ads that show on news sites, really the primary difference is understanding a user's mindset. And so I would personally much rather, and I would also recommend this for you, spend money on PPC advertising that targets somebody who's actively looking for a solution versus somebody who's scrolling through their news feed on social media, or who's watching a video, or who's reading a story about their favorite sports team. Because in the Google example, somebody's head is in solution mode. I have a problem and I want to solve it. And all those other examples I gave you, Facebook, YouTube, reading the news, that person's head is in entertainment mode or research mode, and your advertisements are interrupting them. Again, part of a marketing mix, but definitely not where you should be spending your first few dollars, that's for sure. So Terry, hopefully, in your commenting, Terry, that's why my paid ads on Facebook didn't net any clients. It's a good observation, and it's typically what happens. There's a lot of buzz around social media, and when it comes to social media, there's tons of reach, right? There's so many people on social media, but it's all about headspace. And good marketing is understanding when you can capture somebody's interest at the right time. And so, again, if you're spending $100 this month on advertising, spend it on Google and capture people that are looking for your solution. Don't spend it on Facebook, interrupting people while they're scrolling through the newsfeed. There's a place, like, you hear what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. There's a place for Facebook advertising. There's a place for video advertising. There's a place for Google advertising, but there's an order of operations that leads to results that are scalable. And starting at the top of the funnel with social advertising is not going to be the way it works. And there's if you've had bad experiences with this, or you've been burned by social media advertising, just know that, like, I'm looking at the chat right now in the Q&A, and there's lots of comments about this. Lots of people have had kind of negative experiences starting with social media advertising. So I'd encourage you, don't write off PPC advertising, but put it in the channels that are going to convert. Don't put it in social first. And at Method, everything that I'm talking about today is relevant to what we do at Method as well. And I can confirm for you that we're selling software, and even when we are allocating advertising budgets, we weigh towards channels where people are going to convert, not towards kind of awareness channels. We can't afford that, and truthfully, most businesses can't afford that. In my 4 years working at an agency, I worked with one client who could have almost unlimited budget, and it was an online travel agency. And that was the only time I worked in a place where they kind of just could spend on anything and it seemed to work. But I think that had more to do with just the fact that they were spending so much money that they just kind of own the market. So let me just highlight the differences here between focusing on organic SEO versus pay-per-click. And then there's a great question about when would you do paid ads on Facebook? So I'll tackle that question next. So just kind of in summary, when we talk about using Google as an advertising platform, the two main channels we talked about today were SEO, or your organic strategy, and your paid strategy. There's pros and cons to both. So with SEO, tons of traffic potential. When you think about all the different problems and solutions that you could solve, or all the different pieces of advice that people are going to Google to search for that you may have the answer for, there's theoretically just boatloads of traffic you could acquire. Because SEO really is centered around content for your website, you own that content. We talked about how important it is to have a great website and to optimize it, and you own that. That's awesome. With SEO, really content is kind of the bar for entry. And so I said here that there's a low barrier for entry because we can all write to some degree. So theoretically, we could all probably get into SEO by writing a few articles a month. The other thing about SEO is that if you do it well and you do it consistently, your results, for the most part, will sustain and compound. So it's a beautiful channel for building a long-term strategy on. Now, the cons of SEO are that doing it well is going to take time. Typically, and this is something to keep in mind if you work with an SEO agency, typically the time to results is like 6 to 12 months. If an agency is promising you really quick results with SEO, they are probably doing something that Google's not a fan of. So be wary of anybody who tells you that there's quick wins with SEO. We also talked about the importance of kind of that off-page link element to SEO. That's difficult to do because doing that involves reaching out to different site owners and trying to negotiate getting your links placed on their websites. That's time consuming. Contrast that versus PPC. PPC, if we set up an AdWords account today and we throw our credit card down, we're going to start showing ads right away. So if you need to get new clients tomorrow and you have the budget for it, PPC is a great channel. It's also very easy to analyze whether it's working or not. Google has great tracking options set up, and so you can measure the ROI very quickly on PPC. Downside is that PPC can get expensive. I said that a downside is that your results correlate to your budget. What I mean with that is that basically, if you run out of money, your ads turn off. And so that PPC channel dries up when you stop spending. The other piece, just to call it around AdWords, is that Google makes it easy to set up an account in a campaign. But the truth is that it's a difficult channel to manage really, really well. Most people that I know that are really great PPC account managers are people that have worked in agencies in the past and have kind of built their chops by working on a bunch of different clients. So if you've tried to run an AdWords campaign yourself and it hasn't been successful, don't beat yourself up. It's not an easy thing to do. And before we switch gears and talk about email for just a couple minutes, I do want to answer one question we got about when would I do paid ads on Facebook? And the easiest way to answer this question really is to say, I would start doing paid ads on Facebook when I generate enough returns on my AdWords campaign that I could spend the money without missing it if it doesn't work. So get your AdWords strategy humming if you're into paid advertising, get it driving new business. And if you're really pleased with how it's going, use a bit of that surplus to test some targeting on Facebook. There's ways to make Facebook work, but it's not ever going to be as effective as what you can do with AdWords. Again, don't forget that when people are on Google, as long as you're targeting the right types of searches, they're in market, they're ready to buy. So you want to make sure that you kind of prioritize channels that way. Always go back to that funnel and figure out where people are in the buying process relative to what they're doing on that channel that you're thinking about and build from the bottom up. That's probably the best advice I can give you today for digital or any other channel. The third channel that really is kind of the key to a great digital marketing mix is email. Now, you may be reading lots of articles today that say email is dead. I can tell you that email is not dead. People still read emails. I think there's a lot of pressure for companies to be doing text messaging instead of email. I would say, if you have the capacity to do both, it's not an either or kind of thing. But email continues to be a great way to attract new clients and also really to increase revenue from existing clients. And the keys to it really come around how effectively you can capture email addresses. So when people are reaching out to you or when they're calling you, are you getting emails from them and putting them into some sort of database so that you can use them again? And are you generating content that gives you a reason to reach out? Having email addresses doesn't mean anything, right? Like that just kind of sits in a list and you can't do much with it. But if you are able to build even just one helpful piece of content a month, and distribute that by email to your client and prospects. That's the start of a great email strategy. And as you maybe can write more articles and provide more value, you can use that to increase your frequency. If you have something worth talking about that your clients care about, that's helpful to them, sending 2 emails a week is not a bad thing. Where people get email wrong is when they have nothing to say and they send emails anyways. So again, I know the challenge is around that content generation piece, but if you can generate great content, then email is a total viable channel for doing outreach. And so yeah, we talked about kind of the importance of capturing email addresses at point of contact. The other big piece with doing email well is segmentation. So figuring out how you can track and segment your contacts in a way that makes sense. So for us, when we do email marketing, we think about how we can, build deeper relationships with our existing clients at Method. We think about ways that we can go to the market and try to re-engage clients that aren't with us anymore and win them back. And then we also think about what we do with people that ask questions or, sent an inquiry recently. Like if somebody got in touch with you with a question about your services, they're showing interest, right? So don't answer that question and then let that email just sit in a Google Sheet forever. Like do something with that, right? Send follow-ups and send helpful content, do things that really reinforce, the fact that you are the best solution for that person. Think back to those early slides, like, make sure that you understand why you are the best and be bold and be confident and tell your prospects why. Maybe not literally tell them why, but, insinuate it through great content and through storytelling in your email. And I know we're getting pretty close to time here. So I do want to take a minute and just talk about how you can get this done, because I'm sure in a lot of your heads you're thinking, I don't have the time for this. And that's a fair perspective to have. I'm also seeing a lot of comments about people that, hired somebody and got burnt with nothing to show for it, which is super frustrating. So as you think about all the things we talked about today, so SEO, PPC, and email, there's financial implications to investing in these channels, and there's financial implications to not, right? Like the financial implications of not investing in these digital channels today really is that you're not going to get any growth from them, right? And maybe you can afford that, and that's a fair place to be in. But I think as you think about what it's going to take to grow your business this year, it's going to take investment, right? Anything worth doing has a cost. One thing I'd encourage you with is that there is a ton of great talent in the marketplace that can help you, whether it's freelancers or local agencies that specialize in SEO or PPC or email. There's people that can help you do this. The key is really sorting out the signal from the noise, because there's a lot of people out there that won't do a great job. There's a lot of people that will do a great job, but you need to make sure that you find people that hit this third bullet. Look for people that have done it before, preferably in your industry, and look for people that aren't afraid to talk about ROI. They're not afraid to talk about how they measure things. They're not afraid to give you reporting. They're not afraid to speak about the results that they generate for your business. That's the key. You're not hiring somebody to do social media marketing. You're not hiring somebody to do SEO. You're not hiring somebody to run Google ads for you. You're hiring somebody to grow your business. So really, you're hiring somebody to find you new clients at a cost that's sustainable for your business. And that's the key. So you have to ask those questions. If you are going to do it yourself, here's kind of 4 things that you can start doing this week. So make sure that you're capturing emails and building an email list. Start writing. Writing's a muscle, right? Like a lot of us might feel like we're not great writers, but just start doing it and you'll get better, and you'll get better over time. There's great tools like Grammarly that can help you with content suggestions and editing to help you get your writing better. Know your math and find somebody who can support you in terms of hitting your ROI goals. And again, like focus on the channels that are easy wins. Spend a few dollars on PPC with somebody that can help you out and drive some interest. If the phone's ringing, then you're going in the right direction. If you're getting email inquiries, you're going in the right direction. And the beautiful thing about digital marketing is that you'll know when it's working, you'll know when it's not. And so the key really is finding the right partners to help you do it and do it really, really well. And so that's kind of my flyby on what I would suggest you focus on in 2022. So SEO, Google PPC, and email. are channels that you can drive some quick wins in over the course of this year for sure and grow your business. That's great.
Thanks, Dan.
No
So
worries.
now that we're all on our way to becoming digital marketing experts, we wanted to launch one more exit poll to ask what digital tactics that you learned about today that you want to learn more about. Maybe things have changed since the first poll after watching Dan's presentation, which was great, by the way. I learned a lot.
That's awesome. Glad.
SEO is, I got to learn more. And a lot of great questions. Thanks to everybody for engaging and making
great feedback. Yeah. There's some good feedback around ROI today in the chat as well. Just mentioned that, we had a couple comments about people targeting kind of between 3 to 1 and 5 to 1 return on investment for their digital marketing spend. Yeah, a lot of interest in SEO. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
It's really good to know the metric of how much you're willing to spend for how much you want to get, so you know when to cut it off.
For sure. That's great. Oh, I think Jen
I guess we're at time.
Sorry.
Apologies, my internet has been a wee bit spotty, but we're at time, unfortunately. But thanks so much for coming and joining us today, Dan. If you are interested in lead management CRM, we are, of course, Method CRM. So you can start a free trial with us for 30 days to check out all the functionality. And if you also have some clients who you think would benefit from some join our partner program.
So this is Gary again. Just one more question just before we wrap up, since you put, it's just method.com, right?
Method.me.
Okay. Oh, .me. Oh, yeah. Thank you. And then can you give us just like 2 minutes on what the Method Partner Program is and what the why should an accounting professional be interested in it? Like kind of what's in it for them, so to speak?
For sure. Jen, do you want to take that or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, we'll see if I can get it out and not be pro.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
talk about it.
Yeah.
The Method Partner Program is mostly accountants such as yourself, QuickBooks Pro advisors, who refer their clients to us. A CRM, and by being a part of the partner program, you get some great perks like a commission for every client that signs up, as well as 2 free Method accounts. So if you give it a try, you really like it, you want some clients to sign up, definitely give it a try. Anything else you would add, Dan?
Oh, you're muted.
No, that's great. Yeah. I think the only thing I would just add is that in our platform, we have an app built specifically for accountants to help streamline the proposal process. So one of the pieces of feedback we heard was that it was there's a lot of manual work that goes into crafting and sending proposals out to clients and then managing the signature handoff with that. So Method's a great CRM, and we built that app specifically for accountants to help you find a couple hours in your week by streamlining that process. So sign up. Like Jen said, it's a free 30-day trial. And if you sign up for our partner program, we're happy to give you a free account as well, just in perpetuity. So check it out. I think we can save you a few hours in your week for sure.
Yeah, and you can use those hours to start your digital marketing journey.
Exactly. There you go. Nice tie-in.
All right. Well, Jen and Dan, both, thank you very much for spending some time with us. Thank you to everyone who was able to log in and spend some time with us and participate in these polls. As I mentioned, if you're looking for the CPE and you qualify, I'll send those out within the next 24 to 48 hours. Insightful Accountants, top 100 Pro Advisor program does, where the nomination process closes out tomorrow night at midnight. So I did put the link in the chat for that. And just in closing, Dan, what I heard basically is if I'm going down digital marketing, social media marketing, I probably should find somebody who knows what they're doing, because I could spend a lot of money, a lot of time if I try to do it myself. And I think probably most of us have probably tried that and realized very quickly that it's not just something you can wake up in the morning and go, oh, I'm going to do social media marketing. It requires planning, it requires thought, it requires really dedicated time and effort to do it right. But the one thing that I think is so great about it is that you can succeed or fail quickly. You can succeed or fail again quickly without spending a ton of money. You can really learn a lot really fast.
Yeah.
So you find somebody that knows what they're doing and save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of troubles and eventually a lot of money, right? And then one other question, and this is, all right, so obviously this was an event sponsored by Method. Do you guys have training or other things like this that are available on your website or that you do on a regular basis that people can dial into?
So we have nothing formal on our website, but I would say reach out and let us know, and we could definitely do some deep dives on some channels. I think really the key is empowering people to understand when channels are a good fit and then how to identify the right partners to support them on that. So I'd be happy to, like I said, I could talk about this stuff all day. So if this is of interest, let us know. We'd be happy to do some follow-up sessions for sure.
Great. All right. Well, in closing, we certainly, again, thank you both. Thank you everyone who was able to join us today, and hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.